between what the people on YouTube are seeing and what's going on in the room.
That much of a delay?
Will they say that? I mean, I don't think it is that much, but that's what they say. We'll see how it is. I'd have to give you my between what people on YouTube are seeing and what's going on in the room. Yeah, so if I can.
There's feedback.
Or
You mind just type it in?
we'll see how it is.
Well, you see.
I have to give you my. I really don't know how to get it for you. I'm sorry. It's on my personal channel.
Okay.
And how you share that channel before the meeting is something I was investigating. I was a bit confused by that. Oh. It's on my personal channel. So how much delay we got? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 5,000, 10,000, 11,000, 12,000. It's about.
Lots of feedback there.
Okay, well, I'll stop that.
Sounds like a replay.
I think somebody's got an extra microphone. Yeah, sorry. That okay? Is that better?
Just we leave YouTube.
Now we're a public meeting.
A week later and.
Well, that's possible because there's nothing that they would do except they could put in on the YouTube chat, they could put in questions that could be asked. It was a way to have
Need to be on in here.
and want to attend the AGM.
So-
we're in public meeting. Oh, let me kill the YouTube. We demonstrated it basically. Where are the yeah, there's the YouTube center. Let me kill this. We demonstrated it. There. Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Sorry.
so that what, as an organization, we have to grapple with is. Initially, we tried to do. In the previous meeting, the contractor told us that they could do 2 separate
Yeah, that's
Zoom feeds, and they lied.
Yeah.
It turned out to be 1. So. One way we've thought about it is we do the Zoom feed, and depending what the uptake is. In terms of people that are participating, it might be. Easy enough to manage delegates versus observers. Because we will know who the delegates are, right? And if we have somebody, that depends on numbers. The other one is to do it as you suggest.
I think it's a far better way to do it.
Well,
Because your delegates will all be in the one Zoom.
I understand the merit of
Small
it.
audience.
I understand the merit of it,
Yeah,
but my concern is what are people going to see? When they go on to YouTube. So if we're having a meeting that's 2 or 3 hours duration,
yeah.
okay, and somebody's streaming on YouTube, is YouTube going to interrupt them like they do with other matters with ads?
Oh, well, first of all,
Or is streaming exempt from that?
I don't know. I know they'll probably get an ad at the very beginning when they first log in.
Right,
After that, I don't think there will be.
because if they are, that's not on.
Yeah. So we have to test that idea,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think because we're not monetizing. Now, there's a couple of things that I couldn't figure out. One was, how do you get the link to somebody before they start the YouTube channel? And I'll ask, there's the guys that who do the Tech for Seniors show,
Right.
do all of this stuff. And I'll ask him how do I get the link out to
Because it's critical that people can get on it.
Yeah,
That they can get, that they understand they have to have YouTube
yeah,
on
most people do.
their device.
Yeah.
And secondly, that we have a method to, or that we can ensure that they're not gonna be interrupted by ads.
Yeah,
Because that would just be a non-starter.
yeah, yeah, so that's something to test. I think because there's no monetization going on, and maybe
Right.
they don't put the advertising.
Yeah, I honestly don't know.
I'd have to test it.
Yeah.
Hey, Dorothy,
Yes,
have you watched Tech for Seniors on YouTube? Or has anybody in the room watched Tech for Seniors on YouTube?
yeah, I have,
Do you get any ads in that?
I know,
Uh,
well, they're using the premium version.
Yeah, but that's not much, very expensive, so but I think the ads, are you using a premium version? Because I thought it would stop it for you, but it might not stop it for people that don't have a premium version.
Well, and you know, the problem of our membership is. It's hard enough to get them to click on a Zoom link. So if we introduce a new piece to them, a new piece of technology, I would not work on the assumption that our members use YouTube to the extent that people that are computer savvy do. And also, I think we'd have to be really assured that they knew how to log on to it. So I think at the end of the day, it has lots of merit.
A recording would be ideal, yeah.
To do
And you
the
can
process.
also edit that recording to get the meat of it.
Yeah, to do the process, etc. But, you know, we're under 2 months out from the meeting.
Yeah.
So I have a comment on that.
Yeah.
I think when you look at our membership, we have 10,000 people,
Yeah.
right, Beth? The notice goes out that the meeting is going to take place,
Right.
it's an AGM. Those people who are interested in it will
Right.
probably, well, almost certainly. Send us an email to link so that they can link to the Zoom. Those people who aren't interested in linking to the Zoom, I doubt if there's any value in having a YouTube for them. They're either interested or they're not. And frankly, if I was a regular
It
member.
just complicates it.
I may not be, I'm not a YouTube fan, so.
Okay, but it does complicate it for the administration of the conference to have a mix of the people in the Zoom session, to have voters and and lots of other people. Every time there's a vote, you'd have to make sure that you're
Yeah.
counting somebody.
But okay,
And this
so
is why I asked you, Brian, and you said there would be no remote voting at the AGM.
well, there has to be remote voting.
Yeah, if you have delegates,
If you have delegates, you have to have them.
Yeah.
You have to
And
have the
you, I
ability
was
to vote.
misunderstood because that's, when I asked you about that, you said it.
No, no,
Well, when you create a Zoom meeting, it gives you phone numbers for people who want to phone in.
we're not gonna do phone ins.
yeah, that's, we've done phone-ins on our strata. And it slows the thing down a lot, and it's hard, it's hard.
So
They just listen.
just to give you an idea of the volume as of today's date. We sent out 8,438 emails,
Yeah,
5,799 people opened them.
okay.
I'll skip the executive number.
When that went out,
That went out on Friday.
right, okay, so we're 4 days later, yeah,
And right now we have 2 delegates who will be attending. One of the individuals I know has a disability and can't, has an ability issue. The number of members requesting a link to the Zoom, 25.
yeah. Well, that's manageable within the Zoom.
Yeah, so that's,
I was thinking, what if you get
So
1,000?
do we really need YouTube? I mean,
no, I don't think we do it this.
Not if you're at that low a number. I was
No.
thinking if you had 1,000 people who wanted to.
No.
But by far, the better thing is to record it and send it out afterwards.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and edit it.
Post
so
it on
that-
the website.
Yeah, that would work too.
Yeah. So that, yeah, so I think I think YouTube might have some use for us, for example, if we started getting into webinars and things like that. But at this stage,
Yeah.
it's probably a bridge too far.
We don't do YouTube on our sessions. It's just that because I was thinking there would be maybe 1,000 people who wanted to log in, then you wouldn't, like
Careful what you wish for.
Zoom, the pro version of Zoom has a limit of 100 participants in Zoom.
Yeah, you have to pay much more for anything over that.
Yeah, so over that, you're far better to use YouTube to capture the rest of it. And that's what Tech for Seniors did. They ran their Zoom session, they were getting up to 80 and 90, and then they started to stream it also to YouTube. But if you don't need to, then and you can manage. And if people vote by raising their hands, they get moved to the front screen of Zoom, right? So you can count them quickly.
Yeah.
Can I stop sharing your screen, or we're just looking at your email?
Sorry. Let me go back to here. You can see this,
Yes.
and I'll do PF11. Can everybody hear us? I think the microphone's on the floor.
Yes.
Yeah, I unplugged that. But I got this jacked up so high that
Is this one on?
that's on. I can make the other one on, but
Yeah,
that's
because
okay.
I'm not catching every word that you're saying.
Okay, well,
Yeah, that-
I hear everything.
oh, I'm sorry. It's this microphone that's on. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so table of procedures not be Zoom hosts, and so you have somebody else who does that, like me right here. And Zoom co-host is focused on admitting voting attendees. You don't have the host doing that. And voting attendees can join to online. Okay, so we covered this one off. Online votes are by raised hands, not polls. Yeah, I don't recommend using polls for this because it's especially with the numbers you're talking about. If people are able to raise their hands, Dorothy, let me show you. We'll show this. So, Dorothy, can you raise your hand? Or anybody?
I've got mine raised.
Hand up in the top here, and you'll notice she jumped to the front of the gallery. And that's the best way to count votes. And it's up there, it doesn't go away. There are some other,
There's a new feature that if it says you're done talking, it will lower your hand in 6 seconds.
I'll say that again, Dorothy.
When I did that, and I wasn't talking, it said, it looks like you've finished talking. We will lower your hand in 6 seconds.
That doesn't make sense, does it? Because I know that we put our hands up in Tech for Seniors and it stays there.
Well, I'm trying it again.
It all depends on what system you're working through.
Yeah, if I hit cancel, it will keep it up. But if I don't hit cancel, it will lower my hand if I'm not talking.
Okay, that's a new one. I hadn't seen that. Maybe that's
You have to have the latest update of Zoom, I think,
for that problem to occur. Yeah,
for that new thing.
okay.
I have a Zoom question.
Yeah,
I know some of these, hybrid meetings or remote meetings, some software allows it. Does Zoom have a facility where you can have 2 classes of attendees? One is participant and one is you only? Because I know some of the
Microsoft
sophisticated
product
business
does.
meetings do that.
Yeah.
That would really solve the problem if the delegates were full participants and the rest of people were view only. I mean, they wouldn't be able to actively, but all they could do is,
I haven't seen that.
Microsoft Teams does that. And some
yeah, you have to
Cisco,
assume that everyone who's logging in has Microsoft.
well, or when I logged into the BCI conference 2 years ago, or if I log into meetings with the Pension Corporation, they use Teams.
Yeah.
A lot. You can download a viewer for Teams, but it requires a certain amount of computing horsepower to use it, number one. It's way heavier horsepower than Zoom. And it's not nowhere as intuitive, but it's much more fully featured.
But I think in
But given, again, I think it boils down to numbers.
That's just the question, because I thought if we could, that would solve it. If not, we'll work around like I.
yeah, I think raising the hands, and I think, I've never seen this disappearing hand. Probably.
Right.
So raising the hands puts all the people who voted yes to, or voted according to their call, at the front, and you can
Right.
quickly count those. Because a gallery will show, we've only got, a few people in the gallery here, but a gallery will show 30 people. Just one screen on the gallery.
Right.
And then you could go to the next screen to see
Yeah.
the others, but you know, and when we take votes, I recommend that you call, if you expect a majority of people to say yes, call for the no votes first. Right? And then you get all the no votes, you see there's 5 of them, and then and then the abstains, and then you call for the yeses. And you don't, if you don't have to actually count them, you can just say yes, it's obviously a positive number. But yeah, so that's one solution. That's what I say here, ask the no votes first. Come on.
Our board meeting.
Somebody wants to.
Suspension.
Yeah.
We ask is anyone opposed? And then if there's nobody opposed, they say carry, that's it. We don't go beyond that. And that's what
Should be doing that.
I don't know what I'm gonna do this.
all you need is a majority.
If people are saying, do you say that also?
Not for these meetings, you have a vote.
Whatever I'm running.
And all you need is a majority.
Yeah, that's true. No, I just was,
Yeah.
just a thought.
Okay, welcome back, Aaron. You're muted. That's the new saying, isn't it? The new sentence for everybody in this century is you're muted. Okay. Planning for Murphy's Law, and I think it's necessary. You had a question about using cellular data, because sometimes the hotel's Wi-Fi is just overloaded, right? And you need a way to get out. Now, it's most people have a data plan that's way more than they will ever need, and they can run 2 to 3 hours on a Zoom session for the controlling laptop. So I could log this laptop into a cellular data plan, and I can run it for 2 or 3 hours, and it would be, it'd be fine, right? I could get, now you're getting 20, 30 gig offered on these cellular plans, it's smartphone plans, right? And you know, I don't think BCG needs to buy a smartphone. I think one of the executives probably have a data plan like that. They turn up at the meeting and they make it available. That's my guess.
I think there's one person.
One person? That's you, right? Well, it's not unusual to have smartphones in the audience. And
No, with that big, with a big data plan.
yeah,
I think most seniors in our
yeah,
organization don't have much of any data.
yeah, well,
I'm wondering how much I have actually. Cause when I'm out at a restaurant or wherever, you know, I put it on that cellular data. They never charge me anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's
You can
using
check
not
how
those,
much data you have.
I don't know how much.
So, but I remember going through my phone and I found.
yeah, there's a place that shows how much you use.
Is there?
It doesn't tell you what your cap is.
Oh, I thought it did.
No, it doesn't, you have to actually look up your plan.
Oh, yeah,
Find out
yeah,
how much you have.
Or go golf, get an
But it tells you how much you use.
Yeah, yes.
So-
And you can set a cap in the phone, but
So under these.
so Murphy's Law, like
Yeah.
hotel Wi-Fi bandwidth.
Yeah.
So now this is possible. I don't know.
It's all Ethernet in that hotel.
It is, okay, so you don't have to be wirelessly connected, you can use a
Well,
cable, like we have a
yeah,
cable here that you could plug into the computer.
Yeah.
And I would be sure that I would
Yeah,
have
no.
much higher,
No, that meeting room that we're in is Ethernet connections.
yeah, okay. Okay, that's good. What about a total loss of Zoom? Like it just, it crashes or something like that. You can still use the laptop and the screen to share your documents.
Right.
You run the meeting, but your remote users aren't gonna be able to participate, but that's.
Well, and that's okay, so. Part of what I put in the memo that went out to people. Is that if you're going to participate by Zoom, you have to recognize that there are some limitations.
Mhm.
In terms of participating by Zoom, okay? And we're not responsible for, you know, outages. Or, you know, acts of God or, you know, things of that nature, right?
Mhm.
And your participation may be, one topic we didn't talk about is if a Zoom person has a question. I think the easiest way for them to pose a question, and it sort of worked last time, is that they do it in chat
Mhm.
and then somebody
Somebody's monitoring the chat.
monitors the chat and raises a question with the audience. I think that's way simpler than trying to hear their audio.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
I go to quarterly meetings, that's the only way you can participate.
Okay,
yeah, that happens with,
yeah,
even with one of our electronic groups does things like that.
Yeah.
They had it. Tech for Seniors is more advanced and they're more tech people and they pretty much open it up. They have a chat area half an hour before. During the presentation,
Right.
there's no
Right.
Raising hands or anything.
yeah, and I guess the other thing is we need to think about is making sure that people understand what they need in terms of Zoom. And
Yeah.
that may sound simple, but it's not, because a lot of the people that access our meetings use iPads,
Mhm.
and iPads do not have full Zoom features.
Okay, well, I haven't used an iPad. Is anybody out there using an iPad now?
I've got one right here.
Yeah, but you're not on Zoom, hopefully, or we'd have feedback. So is anybody out there coming into iPad?
Well, I've done Zooms on an Android tablet, Samsung. Most people that try to do it on a tablet, don't know how to manipulate the screen to get the bar across the bottom or the viewing, how they want to view it in terms of squares or the speaker view.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why this camera's, oh, I
I think there's probably instructions somewhere online on how to do it on those type of devices.
Getting back to this thing. So one of the things that you have to do is all the computers that are going to be used have to be updated the night before. You don't want to be interrupted in the middle of your presentation or your Zoom session by Microsoft saying, I'm doing an update.
It's part of Zoom.
Or Zoom, yeah, update your Zooms, because people have different levels of what they can see in the reactions. So that's something to do. In room and the audience tries to log into Zoom, that's a problem. So you want the co-host to have a list of attendees, a list of online attendees so that they can block. So that pretty much covers my session here. How we got? Only 10:38, coffee time. Okay, any questions? I'm gonna stop sharing here. And I'm gonna turn my video on.
Did Patrick or Karen want to try sharing from their computer?
Why would I want to do that?
Well, you were asking about if you could share as a participant.
Yeah, but I don't think that's gonna be in the works.
Excuse me.
Okay,
Excuse me, I really don't think that that's something we want people to be able to do.
Right.
Right,
they're just there on Zoom watching and there's a reaction area, etc. No way should we then disrupt the meeting and have somebody share their screen or whatever they're doing. I think we'll just stay away from that as much as possible. But
I was meaning someone in the panel.
Oh, sorry, that was me. When I talked about audience, Zoom people participating, I meant participating to the extent that they raise their hand,
yeah,
can ask a question.
Yeah.
Not screen sharing, but just doing more than just be a passive viewer.
yeah.
That's what I was referring to.
Do you think there'd be
Right
benefit?
on.
Do you think there'd be benefit in doing a mock AGM like a week beforehand, just so that everybody can?
oh, yes. I think we're just going to take what we've learned today and go over it, realize what we have and perhaps what we need to have. It's
Okay.
not that we are without resources to broadcast our annual general meeting. So these little tidbits that you've provided us with today just add to that little library of knowledge. Thank you,
Yeah.
George.
Yeah, I was thinking more in terms of for the people who would be logging in via Zoom, just get them familiar, make sure they know about their reactions. And things like that.
I think one of the ways we can do it is we have limited uptake right now. Is have Jodine in our central office reach out to those folks and find out what their knowledge base is. I mean, if we've only got under 10 people, that's easy enough to do. So that we can deal with it in that way.
Yeah, it's very easy. I mean, we could.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what, you guys must have a Zoom account, right? Does VCGEA have a Zoom account?
Some of us have Zoom
Some
accounts.
people do.
We don't have an enterprise account. We have
Oh,
individual.
no, but like
I-
in the computer club, we only have a pro account.
Right, yeah,
And but it's paid for
Yeah.
by our computer club,
right,
and it's the pro account, so we can
Right.
do 100 people if we
right,
want.
yeah,
And we can schedule a meeting, like it's easy to schedule a meeting saying, okay, I wanna
Yeah.
do a test meeting.
right. Yeah, well, yeah, the table officers have been conducting Zoom meetings for
No, I'm
four
thinking about,
years.
I'm thinking about the people who will be coming in through.
Right.
Through Zoom.
Yeah,
my whole reason for pushing this is I would really like the delegates to stop traveling to Vancouver. You know, if they could come in through Zoom, I think that that's a real plus.
That's-
I don't want to go to Vancouver really, but,
That's a separate discussion.
okay, well.
And one that's well worth having.
And but we need to know that we can enable it.
Yes,
If it
yes,
comes-
and,
if people want to do that, then it
Right.
needs to be enabled.
and I think it will depend upon which meetings.
Mhm.
So, for example, I think it's de facto, all committee meetings or most committee meetings of the organization are held by Zoom. Most of them. We have occasional, and some meetings are also held in person prior to the AGM. But in terms of consultation meetings, it's Zoom. Like for regular business.
Mhm.
Table officers have been meet by Zoom probably once a month on average. But for delegates at large, we've always had in-person meetings, other than during the pandemic, where we did run
AGM, we ran an AGM via Zoom.
yeah, we ran an AGM by Zoom and we ran
Directors meeting.
a directors meeting by Zoom.
Running a non-hybrid Zoom meeting is
Yeah.
much easier than running.
Oh,
a hybrid.
absolutely,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
It's when you try to do the hybrid, so it
Yeah.
starts to get,
Yeah.
and especially in a large room,
Yeah.
that's where it gets.
Yeah. Yeah, so looking at different models of how we do it over time makes sense, because travel cost is a major component of our budget.
Yeah. Well, and also, well, I won't go into.
That's a whole other discussion. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a whole lot involved in the pros and
Right.
cons of
Of
the
both,
value
yeah.
of face to face versus remote and.
Yeah.
You know, the cost, this,
Especially you have to travel, yes.
well, yeah, there's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
More beyond the technology.
Yeah.
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 Well, I think a good point was brought up by that lady there. A lot of people, Zoom was strictly a virtual tool. We could not physically meet. Now that people can physically meet again, they've ditched Zoom, you know,
Yeah.
it served its purpose. And
Well, it's an interesting point of view. I personally. This is an example, I have a Friday night social group, that gets together just by Zoom. Actually, we don't even use Zoom, we use another meeting protocol, but we do it by Zoom, right?
I have a monthly family meeting for people who live in Winnipeg,
Yeah.
Vancouver, Victoria, Duncan, and Holland. Once
Yeah.
a month, we get together.
Yeah, and so we've learned something during this pandemic, and we're definitely okay, so I'm close to wrapping it up here. If there's any questions?
Well,
Yeah.
not a question so much as, I'd like to thank you for putting the presentation together on behalf of the association. I think it's, you know, it's useful to go through these exercises and see what the questions are. And, you know, I think it'll help us in terms of planning for the AGM. And in terms of moving forward, if I forwarded on your notes to the fellow from the Retired Municipal Employees Association, who's going to be providing the equipment and doing stuff.
Mhm.
So you and I perhaps can have discussions with him about moving
Sure.
forward as well.
Well, I learned a lot by setting this up and bumping into the problems. We have never streamed to YouTube. We don't have a big enough audience, and most of our people can fit into the Zoom meeting of 100, and that works fine, right? We don't need to stream it. But it was an interesting thing to learn that. The audio problems are interesting. I don't think we're gonna go out and buy a camera for our small group, even though it would pan to the speaker. But we've got this anchor, which we use today, and I think it works a little better than certainly better than the microphone and the laptop.
like Tech for Seniors, is that a dedicated YouTube channel that has YouTube little shorts for older people?
You can look at their past productions as YouTube channels, and they do have stuff like that. We advertise it in the newsletter every Monday. It's on every Monday. It starts at 8:30 if you want to chat, and
Oh,
the
but
presentation starts at 9.
okay, but that it's in a YouTube form.
No, it's in a Zoom form. You don't like Zoom?
I do know.
Okay, wow, that's interesting.
Okay, and I guess my other last comment is I'd like to thank the members of your club for
Okay,
inviting us here.
I thought we would have people standing up and speaking into the microphone. We never got to that, but I really appreciate it. Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
really, because I have to say that I have hearing aids. I don't know how many of you have hearing aids, but it's like I couldn't hear what you're saying. But she's got the speaker right in her hand and I think.
No, I'm plugged in. It's not plugged in right now. We will do that in the future, bring it out into the room.
Just sort of loud right now, because that's my whole thing. I stopped going to lots of different things because I couldn't hear, but now I have the hearing aid, and still I go up and down and up and down.
Yeah,
Like you hear, you have a very pure voice that comes out and it's fine, but a lot of those little night, you know.
yeah. Well, but they would never come back into the room unless I hooked up those speakers in the back. We'll work on particular solutions for that.
So should we?
Yeah, you got that. Okay, so we're gonna end this now. Is there any questions from the audience? Thanks for participating. Dorothy, you got anything to say?
I'll just stop the recording.
I gotta get the hearing aids.
Here, when they put a microphone, speak.
Okay, well, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us.